Hello, everyone. This is Michelle from Bipolar Me on Facebook. This is going to be my very first podcast. I do suffer with bipolar, and it's very likely that this will be a project that gets abandoned quite quickly. But I've been wanting to do it for a while, and I'm giving it a go today. This first topic is going to be in regards to medication. Have you ever heard of the website called Quora? It's kind of like a low-quality version of Reddit. People ask really stupid questions. I mean, it seriously seems like everybody on the site is just a troll. So the most... Give you an example. The most recent question that I read on there was, my teenager got caught eating food in the middle of the night. What should I do? And then, of course, they're met with the moral crowd. Got caught? It's food, not drugs. I mean, the question's ridiculous to begin with. It just seems like everyone's a troll on that site. But somebody asked the question, why don't bipolar people just take their meds? If they took their meds, they would be fine. Why do they make the rest of us suffer when their problems are so easily fixed with medication? Yeah, so that gives you an idea of how stupid these people are and how dumb they can actually be. I don't know if that's a troll kind of question. If it was a serious question, I'm really not sure. But I'm going to address it because I feel like a lot of our loved ones may think the exact same thing. There's pills for bipolar, just take them, you'll be fine. It's just like any other thing. You've got an infection, you take antibiotics, there you go. So let's first address the fact that, number one, bipolar is a spectrum disease. There are two categories. I think there might be even three, actually. So you've got bipolar 1, you've got bipolar 2, you've got a cyclomania of it as well. So all the symptoms that a particular individual might experience in regards to their bipolar disorder are almost always going to be completely different from the next bipolar person you may meet. There is no set of symptoms that we all experience, and we certainly don't experience them in the same way at the same time for the same amount of time. And why should we be the ones that have to mask ourselves instead of you being the ones to educate yourself? Mental health medication can cause more problems than it helps. The side effects can be detrimental. They can be life-changing as far as they can give you a quality of life, or they can take a quality of life away. A lot of these pills state that if you take them, suicidal thoughts are common. And nobody wants that. Nobody who's already fighting with depression and suicidal thoughts wants to have to battle that even harder. So there is, some won't take them because of fear. Some don't take them because, like me, I was diagnosed at 12, and I'm 48 now, so I have been on all of them. Not one of them calms the mania. However, the depression, they all seem to block the mania while exacerbating the depression. So I'm left in a constant vegetative state of melancholy, which is not fair to me, just so that you don't have to listen to me cry or scream. If you do any research on bipolar medication in particular, you will see that the majority of them were created for something else, like epilepsy is usually the number one thing I've noticed, that they're created for epilepsy and somehow are supposed to help with bipolar. Not knowing what exactly causes bipolar or what exactly is going on in the brain, there is no way to properly create a medication to quote unquote stop the bipolar. It's just impossible. So basically, when you ask a bipolar person, why don't you just take your medication and you'll be fine? What you're doing, number one, is showing your ignorance. Number two, you're showing your lack of empathy, because that's just not how it works. Some people will take, let's say, Abilify, for instance. It's an antipsychotic. Again, it's for psychotics. It is not created for bipolar. They just happen to say, yeah, maybe this will help you. So with Abilify, it completely took the mania away and left me melancholy. Whereas somebody else, that's beneficial, or it will affect them completely different in the sense that it curbs the depression and maybe not the mania. A lot of bipolar people rely on the mania part to make up for the bipolar depression days, the manic depression, the severe depression, the suicidal thoughts. You can spend days in bed with these horrible thoughts going round and round your head. And then you wake up one day and you feel genuinely happy. You like yourself. This future seems bright. You get up, you get dressed, you do your hair, your makeup, your nails, whatever. You clean your house, and you're happy. And that's hypomania. That's our way of, say, making up for the days we spent in bed. Those days help us cope. And so if a person suffers both depression and mania, and the pill is going to block one of those, say the mania, then a bipolar person can easily go further and further into depression because they don't get the few days or the week or maybe even a month of the upswing. I love mania, and a lot of bipolar people will say the same. And then you have a lot of bipolar people who hate the mania. They're afraid of it coming. They know they make bad decisions. They know it takes a toll on their bank account, their friendships, their relationships with their loved ones, mostly those often closest: children, partner, parents. So you just have to do what's right for you. If somebody asks you that question, why don't you just take your meds? You can just turn around and say, why don't you just educate yourself on bipolar? Then you wouldn't even be asking me that question. Because if you had a working knowledge of mental illness, you would understand that question is ridiculous. Unfortunately, it is usually the ones closest to us. They're just looking for a quick fix. And they don't, number one, they can't understand side effects if they've never experienced them. They don't understand how you feel on the inside in regards to depression and mania because they've never experienced it. They've only maybe seen it from the outside looking in, and it's a completely different situation. If you hear a little bell dinging, that's my cat walking around. It is your personal right to choose or choose not to take medication. I say if you are able to. I know in the States a lot of people can't even afford it. So, I mean, unfortunately, that would be the most horrible reason, wouldn't it? To not take your medication simply because you can't afford it. I mean, that alone, the stress and the guilt that you would feel, I just can't even imagine that. I'm in the UK, so fortunately, my prescriptions are free. If I did have to pay for them, they would only be £9 something. So, if you are in a situation where you are able to get medication to help, I suggest that you go ahead and try it because you never know if one of those are going to work for you. The thing that you also have to remember, and the people asking these stupid questions have to remember, is that the 4-week trial period, almost every mental health prescription comes with this. You're not going to feel any effects for 4 to 6 weeks. Unless it's, say, like a benzo, like diazepam, something that's going to, a Xanax, affect you immediately. And those are always usually for the same thing, either for the anxiety or to calm you down, to stop the racing thoughts. So if you're able to get, some of those, it's okay to have those in the cupboard to take as needed. Unfortunately, for bipolar people, they are prone to addiction. They've usually suffered some sort of trauma. And addiction can sometimes mask trauma, and it's easy to get addicted to things because you're just tired of thinking about it and reliving it every day and whatnot. So we're at 12 minutes here. I know there's been a couple minutes of silence. This is my first go. I'm not a professional podcaster. I'm just a regular person. I just really wanted to address that. So, if you are listening and you have a bipolar loved one, you now hopefully have a better understanding of why this person isn't sedating themselves. A lot of medication like, what is it? Quetiapine. You know that one? That's a zombie turning drug. I mean, it just steals your soul. It steals your mind. With Abilify, I'm a starving artist. I'll say I like to paint, I like to draw, I like to create other things. And on Abilify, I didn't do one thing, nothing. And the doctors and the loved ones, unfortunately, don't see that as a problem as long as you're being quiet and not bothering them. They would prefer you be that way. But nobody wants to live that way. They wouldn't want to live that way, and it's really sad that they would suggest that you do that. It is hard to cut people out of your life, especially if you know you'll be alone once you say goodbye to that person. It's scary to feel like you're on your own. I'm an American. I live in the UK. My husband and I are separated. The kids are now adults, and I'm on my own. And so it's hard, it's scary, but it's also less stressful. Obviously, there's no bouts of anger when you don't have to deal with anybody. So in my situation, I feel comfortable not taking medication because I don't have anyone close to me that I need to provide for or take care of. If I was to go back in time, I would probably sedate myself rather than letting the children see the ups and downs. I feel that my bipolar has created mental health issues for them simply because of my behavior, which is going to always add to the guilt of parenting. You as a parent, you feel guilty for everything, but knowing that you could have potentially created emotional baggage for your child, that's hard to accept. Okay, so we're going to end this here. If you have the ability to try them, it does take several weeks to see if some of them work. So, I mean, if you want to take a year out of your life to see if you can't find something that does help you, I say that's great. That's really great. But if you've tried, some medications and they're not working for you, don't feel bad about that. Don't feel ashamed. Don't feel embarrassed. Don't feel guilty. You don't owe anybody, even your loved ones, you don't owe them your loss of life. And that's basically what a lot of these pills do. They just take everything away from you. You don't want to do nothing. You don't want to go anywhere. You don't want to be anything. You don't want to become anything. You don't want to try for anything. You just are existing and accepting the fact that you're existing. Okay, I think that's it. I will try to do another episode, but I don't know when it will be. This podcast has been set up for a year, and this is my very first episode, I guess you call it. I hope I can continue. It would be nice to have something that I continually do, but I am the kind that just throws stuff aside. So if you don't already follow me on Facebook, it's the Bipolar Me UK page. My name's Michelle Joe, and you should see that under this has been posted by. It should say Michelle Joe. You're more than welcome to follow us. You are more than welcome to email me and ask me any questions or tell me anything you'd like to share. I'm here if nobody else is.